Welcome to Mrs. E English Skills. I'm Mrs. E and today we're looking at Functional Skills English Level 1, Session 2, Purpose of Text. We'll be focusing on language and organisational features with reference to the exam questions in the reading paper. Types of text. Text is any piece of writing, and there are many different types with many different purposes. In order to find out the purpose, you will need to ask a couple of questions. Why has it been written? What does the author want to achieve? Depending on its purpose, an author will use different language and organisational features to get the message across, and we'll be looking at these today. A text can have many purposes: to entertain, to argue, to analyse, to explain. However, they can all be summed up in four main purposes of text. They are to inform, to instruct, to persuade, and to describe. Persuasive text. Let's look at an example. Our biggest sale yet. Get your hands on this one-time offer. Don't miss out. First come, first serve on this one-time offer. You won't be disappointed with this purchase. Let's analyse this piece of persuasive text. To analyse means to pull apart for further investigation. So let's look at the language techniques used, or the language features. First of all, the writer has used exclamation marks, and there's quite a few of them throughout. What this does is it adds emphasis and a sense of urgency. The writers also use repetition in order to reinforce the idea that this offer will not come around again. Direct address is used, using words like you, we and us, because it makes it seem like the writer is talking directly to you as the reader only. So it makes you become part of the text and involved without voluntarily becoming involved. And finally, the use of command verbs like get and do not, miss. This makes it seem as if there's no other option but to obey these commands, and it's quite persuasive. Let's now look at the organisational features, and all this means is how it's laid out, how it looks on the page rather than what is written. So we have a main title or heading, and this will catch the eye of the reader, encouraging them to read the piece of text. This is also written in bold text to make it easier to catch the reader's eye. And then we have a paragraph of writing underneath the heading. You need to remember these features as well as the language features so you can identify them within the reading exam. So let's take a look at informative text. Monthly meeting arrangements. The monthly meeting takes place on the fourth Thursday of every working month. Attendance is 100% compulsory. Agendas include financial outlook, training opportunities, future planning. Let's analyse this piece of informative text, starting with language features. It makes use of factual information, such as the time and dates of the meetings. It also makes use of statistics 100%. And the whole thing is written in standard English. So there is no conversational English or slang. This is so it is clear and concise, and everyone who can understand English can understand what's written. Informative texts tend to make more use of organisational features in order to make the piece of text as clear as possible. This one has a title or heading, bold text, underlined text, paragraph, bullet points, and a table. Instructive text. Let's look at an example. To help you practice your English skills, number 1, open internet browser. Number 2, type YouTube into search engine. Number 3, click on first link. Number 4, search for @Mrs. E English Skills. Number 5, click to open channel. And number 6, click on subscribe. So let's analyse this, starting with language features. The first one, command verbs. You'll notice each instruction starts with a command verb because it is literally commanding you to do something. Open, type, click, search, and so on. You'll also notice that the language is quite short and direct, and it's written as though the reader is being spoken to. We do not have complete sentences because we don't need them, and we don't want to overcomplicate things. We want our reader to be able to follow the instructions easily. For organisational features, instructions in general and this piece of instructive text makes use of numbered points because there is a specific order that you need to follow to get the end product. There are also images or diagrams. This tends to be in some forms of instructive text as well, to help the reader follow along visually as well as being able to read the instructions. It's useful for people who can't understand English, so at least they can visualise the order and the commands they need to follow. And finally, let's look at descriptive text. For descriptive text, the writer is trying to paint a picture in your mind so you can visualise what they're describing. Let's look at an example. The morning was as cold as the Antarctic, and the sharp bite of the wicked wind stung my cheeks. The rain clapped onto the hood of my anorak, and I could feel it trickling down my nose. The train journey had taken forever, and was as bleak as the grey sky above. This day was already turning out to be a complete and utter nightmare. Like every piece of descriptive text, this piece of text makes use of a variety of language features. As cold as the Antarctic, as bleak as the grey sky, they are similes. Similes used the words as and like to compare something with something else in order to emphasise it and create a picture in your mind. Sharp, bite, grey, sky. These are describing words, sharp and grey, otherwise known as adjectives. Bite of the wicked wind. This is personification. Personification is when you make something that is not a person, such as the wind, sound like it was a person. The wind can't bite and it can't be wicked, but people can. It allows us to identify more with the wind. When we think of the wind being wicked, we add that sense of fear, danger, especially as it is biting your cheeks, so we can empathise with that feeling. The rain clapped onto the hood of my anorak. This is called onomatopoeia, and it's when we use a word that sounds like what we're trying to describe. Other examples are bang, boom, crackle. The journey had taken forever. This is something called hyperbole, which is another way of saying exaggeration. It obviously didn't take forever, but I want to emphasise that it took a long time. The day was turning into a nightmare. Well, it's not a literal nightmare. It can't be. So we call this a metaphor. When we say something that's not true, in order to emphasize or create an image or feeling. We know that a nightmare is negative. It's something that we are fearful of. So we can understand that this day is not a very good day. It could be a day to be fearful of. And finally, we have wicked wind again. This is called alliteration, and it's when we start two or more words close together, beginning with the same letter. So the repetition of the W here makes this description stand out and emphasizes it. These features are features that it's worthwhile practicing, writing down, memorizing, because not only will they be in the reading paper for level 1, they will also be in the reading paper for level 2. And should you want to move on to GCSE English, these are features that you will use over and over again, and you will need to identify and explain the effect of. For organisational features, descriptive text tends to be written in paragraphs. Let's practice identifying language features and purpose of text. Read the 4 examples of text. Decide what purpose each one is. Look for some examples and jot these down to evidence why you have chosen this purpose. Try and spot the language features that we've already talked about and any that we haven't talked about. Pause this video to have a go before I reveal the answers. Okay, let's look at the answers. Number 1, instructive. We can tell this by the use of the command verbs go, give, ask, check. Number 2, persuasive. And there are a lot of language features used here, starting with a rhetorical question. We've not come across this yet in this video, but a rhetorical question is any question that's written in text, and it doesn't require an answer, but it's used to make the reader think about their own circumstances and apply that to what's being written. There's also the use of direct address with your, you. This is in order to get you involved in this piece of text. This is already your bus monthly zone ticket, as if you've already decided to buy it. We've also got the repetition of the word save in order to reinforce this idea. We've got the use of exclamation marks after expenses and today. And then we've got the end, don't delay, save money today. We've got a little rhyme or a slogan there. It's memorable and you might think of it long after you've read this piece of text. Number 3, informative. You can see I've not highlighted much. There's nothing really to highlight in terms of specific language features in this piece of text. It could make use of percentages, statistics. It does make use of factual language. It's very clear and it's very concise, and that's how we know it's informative. So finally, descriptive. We've got the use of adjectives there, great and excellent. We've also got alliteration with flowed freely, fortunately it was on Friday, to emphasise that description. We've got a verb there, but it's a descriptive verb. If you've watched my sentence structure videos, you will know that a verb is an action word. So the word flowed to describe how the wine poured, that is a verb. And the fact that it flowed freely, we've added an adverb. So the word freely describes the word flowed. It describes the action. So an adverb describes the verb. This paints a picture in your mind and gives you a feel for what the party was like. How did you do? Let's have a go at identifying organisational features. Analyse the document and pick out any organisational features. Rewind this video if you're not sure what these are. Pause this video here to have a go and jot down the features before I reveal the answers. Okay, let's look at the answers. Did you notice that the purpose of this text was largely instructive? Now to the organisational features. Well, we have main titles or headings, but we also have subtitles. A subtitle is a smaller title within the piece of text that allows us to split up sections of information, and it makes it easier for the reader to locate the relevant section. We've also got numbered points. There's a logical order to the instructions that you would follow. And then at the bottom we have bullet points as well. We also have images or diagrams, so it makes the instructions easier to follow. And under each heading or numbered point are paragraphs with the information contained. How did you do? Thank you for watching. If you've liked this video, be sure to subscribe, like and share. Check out my other videos to keep improving your English, and if you have any questions regarding the content of this video, just pop them in the comments below. I'm Mrs. E, and I'll see you soon.